Nine. Hold. Hold. Off. Corporal Kurtz from the Carlisle Police Department, and I'm here with my K9 partner, Chaos. He's a almost 21-month-old German Shepherd, Belgian Malinois mix K9. One of the things we're going to do here real quick, just give everybody kind of an idea of one of the things that we can do with our K9. Just going to do a quick article search. I threw out 2 items up here in this front yard area of the Borough Hall, which I'll have K9 Chaos scan for. It can be property that's recovered from a scene of a crime, or something that someone has lost, or something that someone has taken and intentionally hidden and not wanting us to find. Zip. Yes, yes. Hey. Hey. Yep. Yep. Los. Fine. 9. Los. Finden. Leave it covered. Nine. Hey, leave it. Chaos. Finden. That's a good boy, Baba. That's a good boy. Bravo. In this brief scenario that we did here, just again an article search. There was a wallet and a cell phone that we found. We're giving Pedro a very simple Pedro Chaos. Pedro is my previous K9 partner. Just giving him an article search command. He's going to use his nose. You can kind of see how everything was there, kind of hidden a little bit. It's not always right out in the obvious public view for us. Sometimes we have to work for it. And then once he locates that item or items that we're looking for, we then get a little bit of an opportunity here just to play some tug, which is just kind of a motivational means to keep him moving. So Carlisle PD's K9's name is Chaos. That was suggested by myself. I proposed that name to Chief Landis. It is in honor of former General Mattis, the United States Marine Corps, who was also Secretary of Defense under Donald Trump. General Mattis was my battalion commander back in 1990 and 91 when I was in the Marine Corps. And Chaos is a mix between a German Shepherd and a Belgian Malinois, although he tends to favor and resemble a Malinois a little bit more than he does the Shepherd. So one of the reasons why this breed is a good choice for a K9 is their loyalty to the handler. They're hardworking, they're intelligent, they are largely easy to train. There's also some health issues that we're also looking at. German Shepherds are somewhat known for having some back and hip problems as they start to age. The Belgian Malinois, being a lighter, smaller breed, does not tend to have those hip problems. Trying to look at it, hopefully being a mix, we're getting the best qualities of both dogs. Our previous K9 and my partner was K9 Pedro. He resembled a Shepherd a little bit more than he did the Malinois, but his intensity in hunting and tracking, just his overall drive, were just incredible. So it's one of those things we're kind of looking for, is just the best balance for what we are trying to perform and provide here for Carlisle Borough. So there are other breeds of canines that are also used highly in detection and tracking work by police departments throughout the United States. Bloodhounds are known for their exceptional tracking abilities. We use a lot of hunting dogs. We've seen use of a lot of hunting dogs such as labs and some of the German short-haired hunting dogs used for detection work, whether it be explosive, narcotic, cellular phones, counterfeit currency. Customs and Border use a lot of different dog breeds in their interdiction efforts at airports and point of entry into the United States. So we are in a constant process of training. K9 Chaos and I train a minimum of 16 hours a month. At this point, that's probably still kind of short of where we should be. We completed a 6-week class back in July and August of 2020, where we focused on narcotic detection, tracking, article search, which we just kind of showed you a small video. Hopefully it will be attached here to kind of reflect the article search that we do, and then handler protection and aggression. So that was probably, they ran probably about 55 hour weeks for those 6 weeks. So we had initially close to 300 and some hours of initial training, and then again a minimum of 16 hours per month. Being that he is still on the very young side, there's constant training that I'm doing during the week at home with him, and also whenever I'm at work, just trying to get him more exposure, doing a lot of obedience, extra tracks on different surfaces, lengths of tracks, article searches where we may work just for one article. The one that we did on the video is for 2 articles in a very small area. But we may be looking for an item like a gun or a phone that's thrown out as a suspect is running over a much broader area. So we may focus on a single article over something maybe a quarter of the size of a football field. So to answer maybe the second question first, Pedro has a very strict diet. We're very thankful that Nisley's Pet and Farm here in town supplies him with his food. He eats like a regular dog. I may break that down over 1 or 2 settings, sometimes maybe 3 over the course of a day. We give him occasional treats, but you gotta understand, I need to keep him in a constant state of deployment. So if I break his meals down over a series of meals during the day, I know that I can be deployed on maybe an hour's notice. The food that we have is a high protein, high fat food, just gives him a lot of energy. Again, he's a very young dog, he still has a lot of drive. So we're looking to kind of get some type of food that's gonna really give him an energy burst. As far as his off-duty hours, I've tried to, at my house, provide him with a pretty neutral setting, not getting a whole lot of stimulus, try to keep him, just get him to the point where he's relaxed, he gets an opportunity to rest. Going back to my previous K9 Pedro, he had a wonderful on and off switch at home, very social with my wife, my in-laws, my 2 adult children. They were very close, but as soon as he was in the car, as soon as he saw me getting ready for work, he had a phenomenal switch. It was like go time. And we got in the car, we started coming into work, or if we were called out to assist another agency, he was all business. As soon as we got home, again, he had that beautiful switch he was able to shut down and then just be almost like a family dog. Chaos is gradually coming to that. Again, being a younger dog, got a little more of a struggle with him, but just try to give him an environment that he can just relax at home. And we spend a lot of time, even on a day off, we might spend 2.5, 3 hours just going outside different times, throwing the ball. Everything I try to do with him is obedient, structured, so we get a few minutes of obedience, maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes, and then just let him stretch, throwing a ball out for him, letting him stretch, bringing him back, doing some more obedience with him, again, trying to keep those sessions relatively short, but allowing him the opportunity to get that energy out. And toys, he likes a Kong, and we have a couple of bones that he gets an opportunity to chew on. We do not give him a lot of free range, have to be very careful about everything he gets into at the house. So everything is still very structured. We have to be very cautious of what he is around, make sure he has a proper intake and amount of water that he can drink. But little things like socks and our mask, we have to be very careful where we place those. He still likes to grab things and chew. He's just like any other puppy, but have to be mindful if those items were actually swallowed, they could cause a medical issue that could end his service to the borough early. Canine Chaos has not worked in an earthquake or fire. Specifically the fire condition would be something we would be prohibited from deploying the dog into if it was some type of an environment like that. There's no training that we could possibly replicate that would enable a dog to safely work in an environment such as something be hazardous materials or a fire. I have deployed my previous partner Pedro into some garage and industrial settings. In those particular areas, we were very careful to make sure he did not come in contact with the wrong substances, which could very easily have harmed him. As far as an earthquake, we are not a disaster recovery dog. There are a lot of dogs out there that will work in those types of environments, looking for live and unfortunately deceased victims of those natural disasters. Again, another great example of how a lab and sometimes German shepherds that don't have the same aggressive nature as what Chaos would have are phenomenal dogs for working in those environments. There's a lot of training that goes into making sure that those dogs are proficient. There's also a lot of specialized gear and protection equipment that is provided for both the handler and the canine in those environments. You may see some of the canines working in disaster areas where they're going to actually have shoes on it. It sounds like something very simple for us. We can all put our shoes and socks on. That's a bit of a process. Some dogs don't like having their feet covered. However, again, given the nature, the disaster area, maybe even the heat or severe cold, you need to be able to protect that dog's feet. So there's a lot of training that goes into something that may appear, viewing it on television or some type of social media, as being a very simple task for a dog to do. Chaos has not had the opportunity to chase a suspect yet. My previous partner, again, I keep mentioning Canine Pedro, we had several opportunities to pursue suspects. I had worked him for approximately 7 years here in the borough. He had more no-bite apprehensions by a far number than he did actual bite apprehensions, which I'm very thankful for. But he was a dog, as is Chaos coming up as his replacement, that is a possibility that we would need to deploy. Chaos is a patrol narcotics dog, so we kind of focus on narcotic side of detection. There is an explosive dog here with the sheriff's department that would be capable of detecting explosive odors, which could be used to make a bomb. We can't have the dogs, unfortunately, trained to do both. The reaction or the response that we as a handler would see when that dog would come into odor and give us the alert would be the same, and we would obviously be approaching a narcotic drug scenario differently than what we would an explosive scenario. So we unfortunately can't cross-train the odor disciplines for each dog. So we have not had that, we don't have that opportunity. I have been present when we have explosive dogs training. There's a much greater number of odors that they train for than what Chaos and I train for in our narcotic training. But the dogs work very similar. Odor work, whether you're looking for an explosive item, an article, or a narcotic, the detection work is pretty much the same. You're allowing that dog just to use their natural instincts to be able to detect odors that are known to them. Yeah, frequently we have to stop and give assistance to people. We spend a lot of time training outside the area. We may be down toward the Maryland border, down in the Hanover area, up toward Annville, up in Lebanon County, Chambersburg, even locally here. And there's been times that I've seen obvious vehicle issues. I've come upon accidents. I'm always in the marked K9 unit with my partner, and we come upon something, we have an obligation to stop, try to render first aid or assistance as needed, and then also notify the appropriate police agency. But in some events, we've also had to notify emergency medical services or fire departments. So even though it may not be in our jurisdiction, we still have an obligation to try to stop and help those who would be in need. And we've had some neat interactions, pulling up to help people. A few years ago, stopped and helped an older woman with a blown tire up along 81. And she was kind of surprised that we would stop. There had been other people that had driven by, actually a fair number of people had been driven by. But sometimes those subtle acts of courtesy and kindness go a long way. So being the K9 handler for the Carlisle Police Department is a great responsibility. Chaos is with me all the time. He lives with me at home. Usually when you see that car in service or driving around, he's in there with me. He's a great honor. It is a great honor, I should say, to be able to work with him. I was very blessed to have worked with K9 Pedro for a number of years. We have an opportunity when we train with these dogs. We are getting a green dog. And what I mean by green is he's going to be about 12 to maybe 13, 14 months old. He's not going to have any other training or experience. So we're being tasked with not only learning new things ourselves, we're also being tasked with the opportunity to train our partner. So it's an incredible opportunity. It takes a lot of time. It can be very frustrating. Requires a lot of patience. Thankfully, I got a very supportive family at home that helps make this transition from work to home a lot easier. I think I've learned a few things from my experiences of working with K9 Pedro. Although both dogs are different, even though they may have some similar traits, each dog is slightly different in how they approach things, and kind of make some changes on my side as well as far as being the handler. We are always open to having people inquiring about us, but one of the things I just caution people that when they try to walk up on us, especially families with younger children, you see an officer out with their dog, even dogs that you would normally not think of being biters, maybe like labs, you should always ask the handler if it's safe for them to approach or safe for you to approach them and to engage them. You never know what kind of a stressful situation that the dog was just in before you may see them out on a foot patrol or some type of public event. And even again, dogs that are not considered to be bite dogs, again, Labrador retrievers are one of the great examples, and some of the other hunting dogs. Those dogs also develop a very close bond, extremely close bond with their handler. And sometimes the dog's natural reaction to people walking up, although your approach may be harmless, the dog is also going to be very protective of that handler to a point. Labs have a great instinct, especially some of the female labs. They kind of like get that mothering instinct, very protective of people coming up quick. So it's always, again, important to ask the handler if you can have some contact with the dog before you just come up and assume that the dog is going to be friendly. In most cases, the dogs are friendly, but again, we also, as the handler, have to be aware of what scenario we just came out of with the K9. In Carlisle, there are days that we may have no calls, and then there are going to be days that we go from call to call to call, covering our officers, maybe assisting other agencies. The dog starts to get stressed just like humans do, and then we may be out on foot patrol, and it may be an opportunity for that dog to kind of unwind a little bit, but they still get hyped up, and they also feed off of the stress of the handler. Again, speaking for K9 Pedro, He was very sensitive toward the end of his career to even the radio calls. He would be able to pick up on the distress and other officers' voices. So that the dogs become keenly aware as they continue to grow in their experience as to those stressors. I just thank you for this opportunity to be able to give a presentation. Would like to thank Katie Maxwell for the opportunity to think of us and to be able to speak to you folks, and for Stephanie Taylor here at the Borough for her media editing and photography and videography to help us to be able to set this up. And I hope you folks have a great day.